Quite a depressing fact is that 60% of small businesses fail. But today I'm chatting with Lucy, who's the founder of Acorn and Pip, which has been trading for 9 years, who is going from strength to strength. And I think in the past 2 years, it's been a particularly challenging market for retailers and for brands. Lucy has been a guest on the podcast, one of the very first guests, actually, Lucy, on the podcast about 3 years ago. But I'm chatting to Lucy today about how she's navigating the challenges and what she's doing to continue to grow and succeed with the business. Lucy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, welcome. Hello, hello.
Tell me a little bit about how you started Acorn and Pip and a little bit about the business and what it does.
So we are a family concept store, but we haven't always been a family concept store. That is what we became when we opened our bricks and mortar back in 2018. Prior to that, so we'd been going a few years just as a retail arm of the business, which is what we call it now because we have different arms to the business: hospitality, we have retail, and we have online. We have different sides to the business. So when we first started, it was actually just me when I first started, and I was doing pop-ups, I was doing the online stuff, and I was very happy with that side of it. It was getting going. I was establishing the brand, finding out who we were serving. I did lots of market pop-ups, really trying to get the name out there. And I was on maternity leave when I started Acorn and Pip. Really unsure of where it was going and what I actually wanted it to be. And I look back now, and you're right in saying that times are tough right now. And I look back to those years where I was just starting, and it was so much easier then. There was so much more hope around retail, and it was like, oh, I might just try this. It'll, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but there's no real reason for it not to work out. The market was good then. And then obviously fast forward 9 years, it's really different out there. And I don't think you can start a retail business with quite so much hope and optimism now as I did have back then. So so we started as a pop-up. I set up the website and started trading as that. Then when we moved over to where we currently live, so I was based in Manchester, and we moved over to West Yorkshire where we're based now. And I had put on my vision board, and I used to do vision boards like religiously. It was almost like part of my business plan, and to do the vision board and kind of live and die by that. And it actually has slipped off a little bit in the last couple of years. I think because I have just gotten busy and my other plans have kind of superseded the vision board plan, but I would like to go back to it. But I had put on a picture of a shop on my vision board, but I hand drew it, and it was very specific. It must have planted a seed within me to either look out for shop, as vision boards do if you're that way inclined. The whole purpose of them is to like plant a seed, and you then start looking out for those opportunities more. And we moved over to where we live now, and on the high street was a closed down men's outfitters, very 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 old shop, but it was pride of place really in the high street. And I had this kind of youthful optimism and extreme naivety, and thought that sounds like a great plan. And would you look at that? It was on my vision board, it's there in front of me. And we pursued it, and fast forward, I think we've been there 6.5 years, nearly 7 years. And it is the sort of the pride and the pride of my business anyway. It's got this heart of my business, should I say. And it all came from us looking round. It was absolutely dead inside that shop. It is such a big unit, and we really looked at it and just thought, oh, we can do something here. And the thing that we wanted to do was always, and there was always this thing inside me that I wanted to do a shop that was a space and a place for people to come. Parenthood is hard beyond belief some days, and we don't all have this community around us that I think either we thought we would have, or we were tricked into believing that we had, or all these things. And I was thinking, how can I provide that on some level to people? And it's, to parents or to families or even to friends. And so the idea of Acorn and Pip with a cafe inside, a place for kids to play, a place for parents to meet, a place for friends to come and meet baby for the first time, or is really what we wanted. The idea of the concept store sort of came from having a lack of something in what was the current high street coffee shop retail scene at the time. And it must have been something that other people missed too, because then when they found it in us, they really found it in us. And it's been something that's been consistently of use to the community and to the wider community.
So, and so to give people an idea of the scale of the business now, you're nearly 100,000 followers on Instagram. You have the retail store, you have the cafe side, like you said, the true concept store. And how has trade been for you from a turnover point of view?
So we have had steady growth post COVID. COVID was such an anomaly, and it has thrown everything ever since. We had these like golden years during COVID where our costs were really low and our sales were really high. And our marketing budget was in line with what we were seeing a return on. It all felt really easy. Maybe it was too easy, because then after COVID came this humongous crash. Sales did absolutely plummet from an online space. Many online retailers who were just online, they went into administration. And that's where our cafe kicked in and absolutely saved us. And then around that time, we were dealing with things like that were all kind of extreme as business owners, bored of talking about, but we were looking at Brexit. We were looking at all the import charges on kids' stuff that has typically always been zero VAT. On imports, we're suddenly kicking in at 20%. So as for small retailers, we were just dealing with so many charges that were just absolutely obliterating our cash flow. And we had to deal with them overnight with no cash line. Like, there was no cash line there. Like, we were dealing with them then and there. And we lost a lot of really, really great retailers around that time. So after that period happened and we dealt with that, then it's been kind of steady for us. I'm looking forward to the next few years and hoping that we can then kind of have, some good years ahead of us at a nice steady growth trajectory, and put those years behind us. They're very much still in the mix of the numbers at the moment, which I can't wait to see the back of them, like when they're out of my data bracket. But yeah, so it's been very strange. It has been incredibly strange, and the fact that we've survived it and we're still here is, it still fascinates me why the hell we're still here, but we are, so hooray.
Give people an idea of the turnover that you're kind of taking, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
So we sit at the moment at about 700,000. That's where we sit at the moment. And whilst that's fine, I think we will always, we are at capacity for our space. That's what our space can do. And when I talk about our space, it's actually 2 shops and an online and a cafe. So it's not just, one till system doing all of that. Yeah. But we are always, and as every business owner should be, we're kind of just obsessed with what the profit margin is, because we know that you can have a really healthy turnover, but that is indeed nothing without looking deeper. So,
and there have been a lot of challenges and a lot of and it's been very difficult for a lot of retailers and small brands, and particularly the kids space, which is very competitive, I think. What are some of the things that you have done to keep the business thriving?
It's interesting because I think when I say we, we have a really wonderful team that work at Acorn and Pip, and everyone is really involved in the innovation of the brand and where we take it, who we collaborate with, what events we put on, and all of those things are the things that we do daily to keep the business going, if you like. Do lots of events in the store. We do lots of collaborations with our existing brands and other people within the industry who we want to bring in to collaborate with if it's good for our customers. I think ultimately I kind of see us more of a service business, and we're always looking at ways that we can serve our customer the best, and how we can meet their needs the best, and what we can offer them. And if that offer might be a product, it might be shoes, it might be a birthday present, whatever. But ultimately, I think we always try to think of the service that we're offering them before that product. So how do we make them feel? How can we improve their day? What do they need from us? We're always trying to think of the service before the product. They might need a coffee, but what else can we do, to improve their day? Is it remembering their order before they order, so they can just sit down with baby and get baby fed, and
Yeah.
we'll just bring over it with or should we hold the baby whilst they need to run to the loo? And there's a million things, and those are actually just kind of the very obvious ones that we would always do. So the events that we do, they've gotten into a really nice rhythm now, and setting up the events, promoting the events, we've just got into a really nice rhythm with them. So I can always, I sort of think, right, great, what can we do for October this year? What can we do for Halloween? What can we do for World Book Day? All those things, there's a really nice process behind them. And functionally, operationally, our business is very process driven, and we've got the years of experience behind us that we can rely on those processes, so we're not having to scramble around thinking, oh god, how on earth do we set up an event? Now it's like, that's how we set up an event. What fun stuff can we do? How do we collaborate with brands? We just know how to do it, so we can focus on the execution of it and how it serves our customer the best. And so the events have been really good for us. They've been a really good way of engaging the community, different types of customer in the community. We're still known as the baby shop. We will always be known as the baby shop, even though we do clothes and shoes up to God knows how old. You can 9, 10, 11-year-olds come and get their clothes with us, but we are still the baby shop. We have some amazing games that are, those games that always say up to 99 years old. We have so many of those, but yeah, we will always be the baby shop. But pulling in kids and families that have older kids through our events is a way to get them in the door, and then they meet us and they taste our food and our drinks, and the kids always say, oh, let's go to Acorn and Pip after school, and then you can kind of
Becomes a
meet
habit,
them again.
and I know you obviously have the other arm in terms of the online side, but I think definitely with your retail space, it becomes a fixture in their month of, particularly when, because you're doing so many events now, aren't you? How many would you say you have in the year?
Gosh, you know what? I don't even know. So we have actually slowed down on the events this year so far, because we're doing a big renovation piece, which is because we don't want it to disrupt trade, because we just can't afford it to. We're having to kind of do a lot behind the scenes, which actually means that me and Tim are very much at capacity with what we can take on, because they do take a lot of planning. And so we normally do half term. Half terms are a great time for us. So however many half terms there are in a year, what is that? 5 or something. Then we'll always
Yeah.
do we always do the summer ones, the Halloween, then the Christmas. Then we used to do Valentine, but we had to miss it this year. But we've replaced it with World Book Day. Then we'll have Easter. Then we'll have, so that's a good 6 there, and then probably one more till summer. So we do a lot of events, and we've started doing a princess breakfast, which they just love it so much. The team love it because they get to meet a princess who comes in, and it's all good, it's all fun, and the kids just go absolutely bonkers for it. So there's been some really lovely events like that. Then we do our brand collaborations as well, where a brand will come in, like Start Right, who came in to teach and share their knowledge with a group of our customers. And that's just great for both parties in terms of retail, because you have these big what I would say retail giants like Start Right, who have been around for, over 100 odd years, and they still need promoting.
Yeah.
The world keeps turning, their customers go, and their new customers come in that don't know them. They need small retailers too. And so when we started talking with Start Right about working together, they jumped at it and said, yeah, we'd love to come in and meet your customers and talk to them about the importance of well-fitted shoes for kids. So that was a great collaboration for us last year.
I think especially because I think what you've filled that gap for, and I know this is for people that only can get to experience the events and that kind of thing, but you fill that gap from a community point of view, like you said at the beginning,
Mhm.
and that service. And what I think a lot of bigger retailers miss now, which is service, relationships, community. You've been able to, you filled that gap, I think, for your location and for your product that you do. And how are you, or can you bring your community, your online community, into that feeling? How do you do that?
It's really hard, and when I don't actually know, I couldn't give you an answer on how we do it. There's not a rule book that I follow. We'll do this because the online customer will feel this, and I get a gold star next to my name for having accomplished that. I think it's something you do continually, and you do it consistently and authentically. So there's the few things. So I always show the shop and what we're doing, and I think I must show it in a certain way that conveys a feeling. And I do that all the time because that's actually the only thing I know how to do. I only know how to show how wonderful I think my shop is, and the happy faces and the kids going in and the events, because that's just that, that's what's going on the shop floor. Obviously we have our bad days, we have our days where a kid will destroy the shop, or we have those days and all the team are just like, oh my gosh, I need to go home and sit in the dark, quiet
Brilliant,
room.
brilliant.
We have, yeah, just like when you have those days in parenthood when you just think, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. We all have those days in the shop where it just all goes wrong. And I'm not going to show those days because don't want to. I could do and say, this is what it's like running a kids concept store, a family concept store. But really, there's so many lovely things that our shop does, and people always say that they just get a feeling when they walk in, and they love being there. And we actually had a lady who has come in religiously for the last like 6 years or so with her little boy, and she just kind of disappeared. And we all kept saying, "Oh, where's so and so? We've not seen her in a while." And then she kind of resurfaced the other day, and she was pregnant. And she said, "I have just been so ill, and the one place that my son and I just have been desperate to come back to is Acorn and Pip." And I just thought, oh my gosh, like it's so emotional because you're really a part of it with them. And the fact that all the team had been like, oh, I've been wondering where she is. Our team genuinely love our customers. But they were all talking the other day about which kids they would take home, like which of our customers' kids. Oh, I take that kid. I take that one. She's amazing. Or I take that one. She's so cute, and not we're not weirdos, but it
Yeah, yeah.
just we just genuinely love the customers, and I think that just comes across. So that doesn't answer how we put it across online, but I think it's just it comes from such a genuine place that if we rave about our customers or our space or an interaction we've had, I think people do see that and think, oh, that's a nice positive place on planet Earth. That can't be a bad thing.
And they can understand your values then as well, and what you're about as a brand. And from a, planning and looking at your year ahead, how do you approach it?
Um, from a very boring place. So I always start with financials, obviously. We set out our budget, where we hope to be. There's no big surprises, and I can pretty much. I think last year our budget was absolutely spot on, correct, and I think what we'd forecasted, we ended up going about 5% over from our forecast. So we planned down to it. We have good days and we have bad days, but ultimately it all kind of comes out at the same as what we planned. So I work with a financial mentor who he's taught me so much about how to forecast, how to budget, how to plan. It's just how we run the business. So we will plan it out financially, and then we look at what the uplift is from last year and look at that difference, and then plan for the uplift. What does that, in terms of activity, what does that look like? What do we have to do? because that's where all the events came from. We had a massive uplift percentage to meet, and we were like, well, how do we do it? How do we find that money? And so we went, then we say, right, well, what are our values? What do we believe in? And how do we join the two? And that's where the events came from. I mean, some events don't make us any money at all, and we're fine with that, because we know there's a bigger brand awareness piece going on. But for the most part, going back to how we plan, that is how we plan. We budget, and then we create an uplift plan based on the difference.
And then from a cash flow point of view, and there can be that tricky side where depending whether you've got credit terms with brands or not, and you're paying up front, and then it can be very much in one hand and out the other.
Oh God,
How
yeah.
do you, what are your tips for managing that?
Oh God. Right. So, firstly, acknowledging that it's hard, just shy of impossible. So you think this is impossible, and then you make it work. You think, bloody hell, that was hard. That cash flow in a small business is, I feel like it's just the hardest place to be, because, and I've been there for many, many years, trying to work out how to manage cash flow, how to manage your own cash flow is, it's really hard. It's just really hard, because as a small business, you don't want to be laden with, with debt, even supplier debt. Not debt, but if you're on 30-day terms, it
Yeah.
can be all consuming. And I really understand. I work with a lot of one-to-one clients, and we talk all the time about, who to pay first, where to get that money from, how to pay it most effectively and most efficiently, how to get rid of the stock. We're always talking about stock movement, cash flow. So, and I think most people don't realize that everyone goes through it, and you've got to work religiously to manage your cash. Working out. So I use something in my business, and I share it with all my one-to-one clients, is a profit plan, and how we work to a profit plan, so that, because there shouldn't really be any surprises in your business if you've got it all laid out. I think lots of people who I talk to kind of assume that every month could be feast or famine, whereas, and yes, it can be in terms of your numbers, but it doesn't have to be in terms of surprises. So, really planning your numbers, that doesn't help cash appear, but it helps you manage the cash that there is. And as well, something that I've learned over the time, I work with so many different suppliers, some huge suppliers, some teeny tiny suppliers, is that they're just people running their businesses too. And so if you're having a hard time paying them, call them, email them, let them know, set up a payment plan, because I mean, that's how hard it can get. You might be riddled with these huge invoices that you place, and you've thought that the stock was going to fly, and the stock falls flat, and you've absolutely think you screwed it up, and your cash line's gone dead, and all the rest of it. And then you ring them and say, look, I'm struggling, and they'll say, no worries, look, just pay me X amount every week. They just need to know that you're good for it. And that might be not the answer that you're expecting, but I just think
No,
a
no,
lot
no.
of people,
Yeah, like not putting your head in the sand and
yeah,
dealing with the problem and facing it is,
yeah,
or not necessarily, you might not have a problem, but basically facing it, the
yes,
reality, whatever that reality is.
yeah, because I think especially people who, I don't know whether people haven't dealt with any cash difficulties, and then all of a sudden you have some. But I just think, people aren't well versed in cash flow troubles in businesses. So, you know, speak to the people that that you're worried about them coming after big invoices. But I think it's just a roller coaster, cash flow in small businesses, because you don't want debt, but you want cash, and so you
Yeah.
kind of, you're trying to play the roller coaster, really.
Yeah, and and kind of face those realities, and just I think one really important thing is just actually really looking at the numbers, because there'll be some
Hmm.
people that might be very early on in their journey and they're just, oh, I'll get that product and oh, that looks
Mhm,
pretty. And they're just
mhm,
buying and, and then they've got a mountain of stock and
mhm,
with not the avenues to sell the stock as effectively as they want to sell it. And
mhm.
for you work with many brands. If there's a brand that wants to be stocked in Acorn and Pip, what are you looking for when you take on new brands?
Again, that's changed over the years, and probably with my experience, and then also how the market has changed. We have like different levels of brands almost. Some that we know will fly off the shelves, some that we know is there for more of an aesthetic, kind of hits our aesthetic values. Some are, super educational, but might not be that aesthetic, but everyone raves about. We've got kind of different levels, I suppose. But we're always looking for ease of kind of accessibility. That's become a big one since post Brexit. Some we had some brilliant brands, then we just literally couldn't get them anymore. So finding out where they're based, do they distribute well in the UK? What's their stock availability like? And one thing, talking about the financials, is just we protect our margin, and it's a non-negotiable. Certain margins we just can't go near. We have to protect our margins, and sometimes that just means we can't stock products that we really like, and I just can't go near them because they're just not worth it to me, purely from a business perspective. And that can be quite hard because you have a lot of lovely small businesses, but they're running at just a really small margin, and we just literally just can't take them. So it does tend to be larger brands, especially for toys, because of all the safety certificates and things like that, and barcoding, and all that kind of stuff. It does tend to come with larger businesses, I suppose, or just more established businesses, should I say. But yeah, we just always make sure that they fit our values.
If someone who's listening who has a bricks and mortar store or an e-commerce site, and they're struggling and sales aren't where they need to be, what would your advice be?
So it can be very, very difficult. So I would always say create an uplift plan, to know what you're actually dealing with. So whether that is right, we do say 10,000 a month, and really we need to be doing 14,000 a month, kind of breaking it down by what that number looks like on your uplift plan. So you need to take that 4 grand and plan it out. What do you need to generate extra to increase your sales? Obviously, you look at your expenses as well, looking at drawing down your expenses to make it more profitable. But if you're purely looking at, right, my business is not as busy as, we haven't got enough sales, haven't got enough people in the shop, work out what that actually looks like as a number, I would, and then create a plan from there. So if you need more bums on seats, or you need more people coming through your door, how many more do you need? And then, go out and get to that number. Because I think as well, sometimes it can be really hard just to say we need to be busier.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Or are you fully taking advantage of the people that do come in the shop? How many people buy? What do they buy? Where are things placed around the store to entice them into a purchase?
And
Yeah.
and you, from your experience, and obviously you have years of it now, have set up another business, Coaching with Lucy. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I coach one-to-one on a business level. So kind of what we've spoken through. Lots of people come to me with problems around inventory control, marketing. I do focus more on marketing because we can kind of draw a lot of things back to marketing, and yeah, just looking at figures and sales plans and all things like that. So I do a lot of business coaching. And then we have the Shopkeepers Club as well, which is an online business community. It's not just shopkeepers on there, it's business owners in general. And we meet weekly for a business natter, and then we get lovely people to come in and share their wisdom with us. We had Pippa from the PR set, we had Katie from Katie Farrell, she's a Clavio expert. So we have lots of people come in and kind of share their wisdom with us, and just brings the lonely world of running a business, it kind of brings us all together once a week, and it's just a really nice, safe and supportive place. Yeah, so that's what we do. Try to keep it gentle, and it's a female space by chance and now design. So yeah, and it's just a nice gentle space for us to kind of show up for each other, hold each other accountable, learn together, and grow together. So.
And what are the things that you would like to stop, start, and continue doing with Acorn and Pip?
So, so I would love to. This I actually only thought of this when I read the question, because I was like, oh my god, what would I like to stop? So many things, but then also nothing at all, because I get so
Yeah.
protective of the business. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I would love to stop using my phone to run my business. Whether or not I would do that, but I would certainly love to stop running my business from my phone. So removing my app, just treating Acorn and Pip like not like a desk job, but just taking it away, because um, my kids are getting older and they are increasingly aware that mummy is on her phone and they are not allowed a phone. So, oh, the injustice in the world. So, yeah, that would be a big stop for me. I would love that. A continue would be continue innovating. I think it's a part of the business that we all really love. We love thinking of new ideas. And although we do it, we're not great at it. So I think there's lots of space to become great at innovating. Like, what else can we do? How far can we push it? What conversations can we have with people to like keep pushing it further? So there's lots of space to improve there. And then we are going to start something, but I can't say what it is. So I'm going to keep it a secret because I'm so naughty. So yeah, so there is something we're starting, but
And
I'm
when
not
are you
going to
going to
say
start?
what.
Can you say when you're going to start? When?
It's very dependent on something else, but I'm not pregnant, and we're gonna start it. I'm not gonna have a baby. We are starting in within the next 6 months, we hope. So
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Lucy, for joining me today. I'll put all of Lucy's contact details of where you can find Lucy and how you can work with her one-to-one as well in the show notes. And I'll be back again next week with another great guest.
thank you so much.